Welcome to Stop Whining About Real Estate. Join us as we chat, sip, banter, and wine with the best in the biz. Grab a glass of your favorite vino, sit back, relax, and let's wine together. Hey guys, really excited to have you here. Let's just dive in. So let's talk about the merger and how it happened. So take us back to the beginning. Emmanuel, take us back and where did this all start? How did you guys meet and what were the very early conversations like?
Okay, well, this is it's a great question. Obviously, it's a very important piece of our history, and I think it really kind of started, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian, but I think you and I both joined the Freedom Club, which is a coaching group in the mortgage marketing animals. And so I think that was in 2018.
Yeah, early 2018.
And I think was Vegas your first show?
It was.
So we both had our very first attendance. We started coaching at the exact same time. And I can speak at least for Jared and I, the coaching was very pivotal in terms of I would come back and constantly learning and changing things. And one of the biggest things that I found through coaching, especially with this group, was you have no idea how much you don't know because you just don't realize what other people are doing in other companies. I know that, you've had your own company for 20 years. Right. Jared and I have worked together his entire career, majority of my career in the mortgage industry, and we worked for one company at that time. And so you don't know what your competitors are doing and what everyone else is doing. And so that's what I really love the most, I think, about the coaching was the relationships, the familiarity. I don't think I even knew what a CRM was back then. I remember coming back telling Jared, I'm like, dude, there's this awesome product called Jungo. It's like this Salesforce thing. And of course, like he's younger than we are. So he knew all about it. He's like, oh, this is what we'll do. We'll do this, we'll do that. And, but I think that's really where it all started was we met in 2018 and throughout the years and just created a budding friendship and really seeing eye to eye about business. And one of the things that really happens during these events, and because you would go, there's typically like 3 events per year, is that you gravitate towards certain people, certain individuals, and we go out to dinner. And, during the conferences, like it's cool. It's, somebody's got something fun and you learn, but at some point you really stop learning. There's not that much left to change in your business because we've applied so much of it. And it really is about the other members that are in the group. And it's about going to dinner and just really connecting with people on a deeper level. And then you kind of realize, hey, this is something. And I knew for a long time, for me, that Brian was someone that under the right circumstances, I'd 100% be willing to work with. And I really liked Brian. And that's kind of how it started. And then I think I introduced everybody from there. But
yeah, I think there were a lot of us, or a few of us that really gravitated together. And for me, that coaching group was all about community, right? And for me, starting my business back in 2006, being a mortgage broker, I was on an island for over a decade. And I tell people a lot, I had a love-hate relationship with mortgage because, really it's so much as mindset, right? And when you're on your own, you don't have those other people pouring into you. You don't have the mentorship. You don't have the peers and you're seeing what they're doing. And I think when you start gravitating to those people and the synergy is there, you find those people that are your people and you just make each other better and you see what's possible. So absolutely. That group, I tell people that group was really life-changing for me.
Me too. Yeah.
Jared, when you guys started the conversation about a partnership or a merger, what were some things about Brian specifically that you thought could be a great fit for Choice Mortgage Group?
I checked out his dating profile and it was fantastic. But after that, no. So to Emmanuel's credit, we actually talked to a lot of people in looking to expand our footprint and our reach. And Brian was probably, honestly, one of 4 or 5 that we started having extended conversations with. And there were some different pros and cons to everybody in the group or every group that we were talking to. But every time we talked to you, Brian, we took that conversation further, and there was more that made sense, and more that you did well that we didn't do well, and more that we did well that you didn't do well, and that to me is that's what a merger is about, right? Being stronger together than apart. And while we think we provided a tremendous amount of value to everybody that we talked to, we did the same things as some other groups. And we, also saw some other groups that we could have tremendously benefited, but they wouldn't tremendously benefit us. And so as we got down that path and, we saw what it looks like together, I think now, this is not that old.
No.
We already see how much better we are together.
Yeah.
And so it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's great. I agree, guys. I think we just really clicked, and a lot of it's, right place, right time. And I think we had the same vision, and I think we support each other really well.
I think I think it's really important. I don't know if this was a question you were going to ask or not, but I think a big part for everyone to understand about, how this comes about is the market forces. Everyone has to understand that, the last 2.5, 3 years have sucked.
Yeah.
Let's call it for what it is. If you're in the mortgage industry, it has not been easy. We've had to lay people off. That sucks. There's nothing worse than having to lay people off. That, it's one thing, firing somebody who's a piece of, is easy to do. I have no problem doing it.
Sure.
I'm cold when it comes to that. But having to lay someone off who is a talented individual, we as owners aren't providing enough work for them to do. It was really rough. And I think that we knew what we were great at, and we've honed in on that skill set, and we were so idealistic about the partner, and to exactly to what Jared had said, the others that had, they're wonderful people, but we're like, no. Brian is the door opener. He's the missing piece. And hopefully what you'll get out of this as well is see that, your personality is so much of a softer touch than Jared and I. And I think that's going to be very welcomed by our side, our employees, and hopefully our rigidness will help your employees a little bit.
Are you guys trying to say I'm soft here?
I didn't say it. I nodded, but I didn't say it.
No, but in a positive way, because to that, to all of our strengths also equals our weaknesses. I don't open doors the way that you do, and you're going to open so many more doors and allow people to really see what our true offering is. Yeah. And that's what has us, I think, all of us so excited.
Yeah, and I'm really excited too, because in the same way, I feel like you guys have balanced me out really well. In that you guys are really good, I think, at having it the same way every time. Really, what's the way to say this? Not being afraid to say no in certain situations, because it's going to actually make you better. You know, and that's been a very good lesson for me to see you guys and the way you've implemented that and created that consistency and process. And I think the way you were running Choice and the way I was running my broker shop was very similar in how we handled the last couple of years. I think a lot of people really started retracting in the industry. They started shrinking. They started cutting wherever they could. And I really, going into that, did not want to have that mindset of I'm going to cut my legs out from underneath me and not be able to grow when things get good again. And so for me, I recognized it was a time to maybe be a little bit more lean, but really invest in the future. And I think you guys were basically right on the same page there.
It's mindset. We all had the same mindset. We might have been attacking it from two different angles, but 100% the same
Absolutely.
mindset.
You guys are very fluid and good at this, because we've gotten down to question number 7 already.
Cool.
Brian, what was it specifically about Choice Mortgage Group, not just them, but the company as a whole, that made you really feel like this was where you wanted to be as a partner and merge your company with ours?
So, I mean, not to take it back to the Freedom Club again, but Emmanuel and I really developed our business with the Freedom Club mindset. And as a broker, one thing that's great about being a broker is I've got so much flexibility. I can shop the loan around to 25 different lenders. I've got all these different products, but I'm also dealing with 25 different lenders' systems and their online portals and their turn times, and they all view things a little bit differently and do things differently. It creates a very difficult environment to be able to do it the same way every time and to have as much efficiency. And I think, Emmanuel's someone that I've always seen in the Freedom Club. I've always seen you with innovative ideas. I've always, highly respected in that regard and always been impressed at what you've come up with. But then to come out here to see the systems, to see how it was operating, to see the efficiencies that you guys have created, honestly, it's kind of the dream of what I've wanted to create, but maybe just not had as much success in the broker arena being able to create those same level of efficiencies. So that's the thing I'm most excited about is we still have our competitive edge, but now, you know, a 2-week closing instead of a 30-day closing is not just, oh yeah, we moved heaven and earth to make it happen. This is the norm. And that's what I love.
I think that's too. So like one of the things that I think in the broker community, that's a very big misnomer or myth is that, and for us, which is one specific reason why in our pricing engine, we show every single investor. And, you know, we don't want to say, this is your Fannie Mae pricing and then just choose whatever the best pricing is. We want you, and this is even before the whole concept of this merger, we've always been that way. We've always wanted to be very transparent. You know, this is what this bank is pricing. This is what this bank is pricing. Yeah. And I think that people forget that although that we're a direct lender, we are shopping interest rates the exact same way that a broker does. And I think that oftentimes brokers put it out in the community, in the overall lending community, that we don't do that. And I don't know what it's like to work for cross country or guaranteed rate. Maybe they don't show those investors. Yeah. So from maybe their employees don't feel it. But for us, if we have 15, 20 different banks that we're selling loans to, we want you to see it. Now, there's no advantage for you to choose anybody but the best priced because to your point, we are going to do it the same way every single time. We are going to control the closing. We're going to control the underwriting. We're going to control the processing. But the shopping aspect for me, it's important to note, we shop just as much as you do.
And I mean, honestly, that was a little bit of an education for me. I mean, in the broker community, I think we have this mindset that, you know, brokers are better and we're going to shop it for the client and the retail guys aren't doing that. But that's exactly what you're doing here. And I think you're just adding more control to it as well. So when I'm talking to my clients, I'm saying what's great about this is we control the process for you from A to Z, and then we're going to shop it around to multiple different investors, just like I was doing when I was a broker. So we're still doing everything in your best interest, and we're trying to find you the best deal.
I got a question. This might be one of your questions. Jared and I have been working together for a really long time. In terms of this company, we've been partners since its inception. Brian, you've been an owner of your own company for 18, 19, almost 20 years, something like that. This is your first time in a partnership. Yeah. You know, it's easy for Jared and I. We know each other very well. We know how each other thinks. You know, like first of all, how did the whole concept of a merger between us, now not having just me as one partner, but that you have two. So now you're dealing with two different individuals, two different personality sets. You're used to having full control. Now you've got to share that control with other people. What's it been like so far? What were some of the things that your brain was telling you, like, do I do this? Do I not do it? You know, things like that.
Yeah. So change is always hard, right? Even when it's good, it's always hard. And, but it was not nearly as challenging as I thought it would be, if I'm being fully honest about that. So for me, I was afraid of lack of control because I'm the decision maker. If I want to do it, I'm going to do it. The flip side to that is I'm kind of tired of being an operations manager, a compliance manager, payroll guy, the financial officer for my company, sales manager. I'm wearing so many hats that what ends up happening is you're not doing any one thing particularly as well as you'd like to. And coming in with you guys, I think the thought process, even when we first started talking, was that we could do something bigger together than apart. And I've really seen that synergy and that we all bring something different to the table, and the pieces that are in place, you know, having an incredible CFO, having an incredible compliance manager. The operations manager's okay, but Jared, you're doing fantastic. And the things that you've put in place make it to where I don't have to worry about that because I know you've got my back. So I'm focusing more on client experience. I'm focusing more on how do we build a sales culture. I'm focusing more on how do we grow the company, and not just grow it, but grow it with excellence, right? So that's what I love.
Jared.
Yes.
What has been the biggest surprise or challenge of the actual merge?
The biggest surprise or challenge. You don't know what you don't know. And I would say, in all honesty, some of the product knowledge that your LOs have is far greater than I would anticipate in some senses, and then not there in other senses. And I don't even, it's a different market. It's a different skill set that's needed. It's different clientele. And, as a loan originator, I've been in Florida. I mean, 99.9% of the loans I've ever originated are Florida loans. Probably a good chunk of those are South Florida. So same clientele, same product mix. So that's just been interesting, kind of opening my eyes to, the differences in, I don't even want to say levels of LOs, just what they need to know in different market areas.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, New Mexico's not Florida. It's different.
Yeah. Well, I'm also learning about your title companies.
Yeah. They're not so fun.
Brian, what has been your favorite part of the transition into the merger?
Honestly, I think kind of what I was talking about before, just not being on an island, not being the sole decision maker. I honestly felt like a weight was lifted off my shoulders, and I was able to just hyper focus more on what I excel at and what I enjoy doing and what I feel like I'm good at. And, Jared, you're far better operations COO guy than I am. And having a compliance manager, having a chief financial officer, like just being able to step in and focus on what I like to do and what I feel like I'm good at. And if I'm not good at it, I've got people around me to support me and help me, and that's awesome.
Emmanuel, what's one thing that you've learned about yourself in this process?
For me, it's about people, obviously, and it's really about trying to understand people and trying to make sure that we have friends who have gone through a merger, and the number one piece of advice they gave us was culture, and it's very different. And so we also have a time, you're 2 hours behind us, and the lack of proximity makes it a little bit more difficult from just learning everything else. So I think culturally speaking, he's in you're in the, what do you call it? I mean, it's West, but what do you call it? Southwest.
Yeah.
So the Southwest versus the South, but we're not really the South. We're more like, South Florida. I don't know what we call ourselves, but it's not
Definitely
not like
the South.
It's not the South. But my point is the cultures are very different. The South tends to be comprised of people from Boston, New York, wherever, Philadelphia.
The Northeast.
And then you've got people like you two who are from, homegrowns. But in general, I think it's really just been the culture and trying to understand people and trying to understand how they're used to communicating. They don't know who we are. So I think learning about myself to go back to the actual question, I think I'm learning to try to be more patient and not make decisions so fast. Certain individuals on Brian's team communicate a certain way that we're not necessarily used to being communicated to that way. And I don't mean rude or anything like that. It's a directness that some of our people, like, we've worked so long with loan officers that are our friends. And it's and also because they can walk in the door and it's the old, got a minute, you know what I mean?
Right,
and so they walk in, and now all of a sudden you have somebody who needs your time, and rightly so, they deserve our time. So I think it's just learning to we're trying to be a national company. We want to be more than just a South Florida, and we want to expand. So for me, it's learning to draw on my excellent source of patience and to learn to harness that a little bit better.
Jared, you've worked with Emmanuel for most of your career. This is the first time that you've done something like this together. Is there anything that you have learned about him or your partnership together in all of this?
So much. I will tell you the number one thing I have learned about you recently. So you and I, you're one of my close friends, you're family to me. And so we have a communication style where when I'm pissed, I yell at you. When you're pissed, you yell at me, and we're cool the next day. Like that's always been our thing. And we've been able to use that to create an awesome culture and company and team, because when we disagree, generally we feel very passionate about something, and we disagreed a lot because there's only two of us. There's only two viewpoints. Now, interestingly, bringing in a third viewpoint, I have seen you navigate the middle a lot better. And something that I didn't even know was we haven't had a middle, right? There's only been a right and a left, a 0 and a 100. And that's been impressive for me to watch and to help navigate the three of us and bring this together. That's been very cool.
All right. So now that there's the three of you, and the merge is well underway and people are onboarded and things are kind of combined as one, what's some of the bigger things that you see for us this year?
And so from a timing perspective, Brian is still wrapping up the things that's going on in his former company. So we haven't gotten the, the full Brian that we're going to get, which, that's the piece that I'm looking forward to, because one of the things that we've really done and tried to focus on is highest and best use. And I say it all the time. It's about getting people, to your point, Brian. Jared is much better at the operation, at running ops, right? Like, do it. Keep the people who are better at doing it. My head's in the clouds a little bit more. All right, well, that makes me good at seeing the future and trying to find different things and where are we going. And so I think it's more just about really focusing and trying to get where we're going to go as fast as we can get there. Yeah. So I'm excited growth-wise to really start recruiting. We're building out this unbelievable recruiting platform, and I think that's going to bring a ton of success to every single part of the company.
I think for me, it's focusing on the growth. That's what I get excited about, is building something, growing something. And I'm a relationship guy. So from a relationship standpoint, and for this year, I think it's really investing in relationships, investing in our sales culture, supporting loan officers, and having a culture where we're all making each other better. And I think those are the kind of people that we want to attract, is people that align with that, who want to be pushed, who want to be better. And that's really the goal for this year.
For me, it's having a sales team of professional loan officers. It's what you guys said, but it's really hard to support somebody who does a loan every other month. They might be the best person in the world. They might want to learn everything. They're just not going to get enough at bats. They're probably doing something else to supplement their income, and all of that's okay. But it's a very tough person to support. And so I'm so happy to be recruiting these people who are doing this full time as professionals that have been doing it a long time and are going to get 10, 20, 30 at-bats per month to really hone in their craft.
Can you imagine having a hospital that had doctors who worked every other month?
Yeah.
Just part-time. Oh, I haven't seen this case in 8 months. I wonder what I'm supposed to do here.
Yeah. We might have that.
Well, I think what excites me about that is that what you have built is specifically tailor-made for that loan officer who is having that many at-bats, because the loan officers I've been talking to, I think there's a lack of support. I think a lot of companies have been pulling back instead of digging in. And when I'm talking to other branch managers, loan officers, that's pretty much the number one complaint, is they're not getting enough support. The systems aren't where they need it to be. And even just in the short time that my loan officers and I have been here, what I'm seeing is an incredible level of support to get you out of the file so that you can go make more relationships. And so that's really where the synergy is we help those loan officers and they help us.
It's really about rebuilding trust too. So like for us, it's getting your loan officers to trust the system trust that your ops team behind you will carry it into the end zone. Like, you don't have to do this. Like, go back out there and sell. I think what will be interesting for us, because I already know that we're very strong in that area, and I know that loan officer who does a tremendous amount of business already, or has the potential to do a tremendous amount. I know that we can support them very, very well. I'm curious to see when we meet our first group who's interested in us, but we have to bend a little bit more in terms of like how we're used to doing business. And I think that one of the things that you'll see with Jared and I is that we are both big time growth people. And that doesn't mean just numbers. We love to learn. It's unbelievable how much you have to learn in this business and how many aspects of the industry. People really don't understand, like, we're not just loan officers anymore. Like, being a loan officer was 5 years ago.
Right.
You know, like, post that, you have all those hats that you're wearing. But in order to recognize, remember, we talked about people being our greatest asset. Well, in order to recognize somebody is great at their job means you have to understand a little bit about their job to know that they're that much better than you. So I am curious to see when we are put in that position where great group, you know, great leadership within that group in terms of a branch manager or whatever they are, some really cool, systems and processes that might be a little bit different. They've got their own CRM rather than adopting ours. And so I think that will be an interesting play when we have to learn to mix systems and processes a little bit. And that will be a next level of growth for us because we haven't really had to do that yet.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I think it'll be interesting, and obviously it's another challenge. And like one thing that Jared and I have always said, anytime I don't want to jinx ourselves, but I don't remember having lost an operational employee in a really long time. And I think in general, whenever we've lost someone, we've always come back and said, all right, this is an opportunity for us to stop whatever laziness we had there and let's correct it. And let's get great at it.
Actually, the last good operational employee we lost, he wanted something different. He left the industry. Great guy. I'm still in contact with him. We eliminated the position. We rolled it into other positions. I mean, that was part of something that we were able to do to create more efficiency. But we really haven't lost anyone great.
That's great. I mean, yeah, that's culture right there. Having someone that's been with you for a long time and having that staying power, that says that you've got something good going on.
Yep.
Okay, we're going to play rapid fire. I'm going to point to you when you're going to answer. These are going to be very short answers, a couple words. If you weren't in mortgages, what would you be doing?
Doctor
Mortgage. Jared?
Professional poker player.
Ooh, I like that one.
Brian?
Real estate investor.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Biggest pet peeve in business?
Dealing with someone, incompetence. How's that? That's
Okay.
a nice way to say it.
Well done.
People sending an email or messaging me hi and then needing me to follow up with them instead of giving me the context of what they want to talk about.
Also known as incompetence.
Can I just pile on top of that and just say
Yes.
incompetence?
Yeah.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Favorite way to de-stress after a long day? Jared?
Hanging with my son, so more stress, but then when he goes to sleep, less stress.
Brian?
Yeah, hanging out with my daughter, absolutely.
It's okay if you don't say your kid. I'm just saying.
Hanging out with my daughter.
Emmanuel?
Cooking and hanging out with my dog.
Brian, who do you think is the best negotiator out of the three of you?
Ooh,
You can say self.
I'm going to say me.
Emmanuel?
I would say me as well.
Jared?
Brian's pretty good.
All
Go with
right.
Brian.
All right.
All right.
Brownie points.
What's the best or worst, and you can do both if you want, piece of business advice that you've ever gotten? Brian?
For me, I think it's been having a abundance mindset and not a scarcity mindset.
So I think the best piece of advice is going to be really that it's not about you, and throw yourself completely out of there. Like, you've got to, if you are going to sell something, selling is simply solving a problem, and you have to identify what the problem is in order to solve it. So ask questions rather than talk first.
Jared?
I don't remember if it was Gandhi or Dalai Lama, but he said, "He who sheds his beliefs the fastest is the smartest person in the room." So always have an open mind.
Look at you coming up with an awesome answer. That was great.
Yeah, I'd never applied it to business before. No.
I love that. All right, so we're wrapping up. The one last thing that I would want to ask the three of you is if there was a company that was looking to do this for the first time, what would be a little bit of advice that you would give them now being kind of on the other side of the process?
Number one, I think that question will better be answered in 6 months. Like right now, you're still in I don't want to say a honeymoon phase, but it's unlike that kind of relationship where it's a honeymoon phase. It's so much just learning personalities, learning how people communicate with each other, and learning what everyone's needs are. So I think the beginning piece is about patience, having a tremendous amount of patience. We are both naturally more faster in our responses. And so I think we have to learn to be a little bit more patient in terms of how people want things from us. We've also designed all of this stuff, so it's very easy and natural for us. We forget what it's like to have to learn. And so I think from my perspective, and I think this is where our age comes into play, is that's why I do play that middle role, is that whether I agree 1,000% with whatever you're feeling, I also understand from their perspective if they weren't involved with you and I on the whiteboard and planning all this stuff out, and just learning from it. I think overall advice is to really dial in on your patience. Learn that it's going to take time, and I think that it's not going to happen as fast as everything that you want it to happen.
Brian?
I would say for me, it's making sure that both cultures can really merge into one culture. If it's not going to merge, you're going to have a ton of conflict. You're going to have a lot of issues. And I think that's one thing that's worked pretty well. Like I knew going into this that there were going to be speed bumps and things that needed to get addressed, with my loan officers, with you guys, operations. So just knowing kind of who you are and who you're joining and making sure those cultures fit well together.
Jared?
I think we've had a lot of wins along the way, but I think the best thing we did was keep 2 standing meetings a week where we would just talk. Even if we didn't have an agenda or a problem, just keep that line of communication going, keep momentum going, asking questions and getting to know each other's businesses better. That I would tell everybody is a must. And it was a lot of time invested, well invested, but a lot of time invested.
And he's referring to the 3 of us, not the entire teams, but just the 3 new partners and getting to know each other. And at the same token, I've spent a tremendous amount more time with Brian than Jared and Brian have spent with each other, and I think that was important to see, exactly how that dynamic would work for us as well.
Awesome. Any parting words or last comments you'd like to add?
I'm just excited about the future. I haven't been this excited about mortgages and business in a very long time. And so this has just been an exciting experience. We're still in the middle of it and a lot more to do this year, but I think the possibilities are endless. I think we're going to do great things and build some great things together.
I've got some questions all right. So Brian, in your new role with us will be the Chief Growth Officer, and talk about what your concept is and what is it that you're going to do and how do you open doors? Obviously, one of the things where we've all really agreed upon, which I absolutely love, is that we want intentional but staggered growth. Yeah. And not to overgrow too fast where we can't support it operationally, and then next thing you know, you lose half your company. But what are some of the strategies that you plan on using to attract or to open doors in general?
I mean, honestly, so again, I'm a relationship guy. And so for me, it's organic relationships.
You have a big Rolodex.
I got a big Rolodex, but yeah, it's reaching out to a lot of the amazing people that I've come across in this business and finding where there's alignment and synergy. And so far, there's been a lot of that. And so just continuing to have those discussions, I think continuing to improve sales culture and, I want to have coaching. I want us to have masterminds. I want us to be spurring each other on and making each other better. And having that kind of culture is something that I think a lot of companies are missing. So continuing to hone in on that, but also just taking advantage of the relationships that are out there that we have and finding where there's synergy, really.
Jared, where do you find our greatest opportunities are going to be as we embark on as we've kind of talked about, 25 and 26 for us are the years that we really want to hyper grow and really focus. Where do you find the opportunities or challenges will be operationally speaking in terms of our growth and being able to make sure that our service, which is really our main attraction, stays at this same quality level?
I think the growth and the challenge, or the opportunity and the challenge is the same thing, is really doing it differently than every company did it before. We have to find ways to make tweaks. We have to find positions that aren't necessary. We have to find really talented people. The reason so many companies went out of business in 22 and 23 and 24 is they required so many hands to manufacture a mortgage. And they were doing it well for the most part. Some companies obviously weren't, but when it takes 15, 17, 20 people to properly manufacture a mortgage, it becomes very expensive. When it becomes very expensive, you have to increase rates. When you increase rates, you lose clients, you lose LO retention, you lose business, and it's this vicious cycle that seems to happen. So in order for us to grow properly, we have to find ways to do it differently and to do it better and to do it more efficiently. And I'm really excited about that because we're going to continue to tweak and just really hone it in.
If you had to answer someone, because I know one of the things that we are very proud of is what is it, why do you think we are able, and as you're witnessing, now, why do you think we're able to submit and process and get a loan clear to close in half the time that the national averages are? And beyond that, why are we selling those loans, our ability to sell the loans in half, if not 1/3 of the time of the national averages? Why are we so special in those areas?
There's a lot of things that I think we do better, a lot of things we do differently, but the number one thing we do differently is our front end support, where I truly believe a lot of people made a mistake over the last few years was having loan officer assistants and having each loan officer train their assistant differently and get different levels of support, which means a different package was sent to processing, a different item was sent to underwriting, a different quality product came to closing every time. And for us, we've really standardized that front end support.
Brian, as someone who is starting to experience that, what is, and what more so from your loan officers, what are you hearing from them in terms of operationally, what's their feeling on it? Because it is a little bit of a different concept. We're much more focused, as Jared said, we're heavier on the front side, but that makes for us, it makes the rest super smooth. But how are you guys handling it?
The feedback that I'm getting and the feedback that I'm seeing firsthand is that once you hand a loan off, there's really not a whole lot that you have to do because the operational staff, like the people, the team that we have are just next level. And there's a level of accountability and ownership in each specific phase. So to Jared's point, you've got the loan partner position and it's more standardized, right? And so I've worked with 3 different loan partners and I've seen pretty much the same experience with every single loan partner that I've worked with. Same with processing. So I can see that it's the same way every time. And because of that, I think it makes it to where there's just that confidence level. So that's really what I'm getting from my loan officers is less fires that they're having to jump in and put out, having to worry about things after a loan is already in process. And so now as a loan officer, I can focus on relationships, going and meeting with realtors, going and talking to clients, taking the customer service level from here to here, because now instead of spending all my time trying to make sure this loan closes, I can just communicate with the clients, communicate with the realtors on the transaction, and really make sure that all their questions are getting answered.
Right, it's loan originators being able to go out and sell, and then tomorrow they can sell, and the next day they can sell, and the next day they can sell. And everyone always talks about this industry as doing this. When you're on the way down with your business, that's because you were just putting out fires that whole time and not selling, right? And so we want them to continue to just stay flat and grow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that yo-yo effect.
Okay, that's enough whining for one day. We are so happy that you could join us today on Stop Whining About Real Estate. So please, not only listen, but subscribe, follow us, download, share, and if you're feeling it, give us a 5-star review. Hey, and if you'd like to be a guest on the show, please email stopwhining@choicemortgage.com. Thanks so much.